there, guys, and we're here with Simran, Whitham, and we're doing an interview here for FormatGG. This is a interview to actually talk about the venue, the event itself. So please take it away.
Yeah, of course. So Format is the UK's biggest games industry nightlife event, and what we are is a traditional hybrid between the traditional game show expo meets a nightclub meets a networking event, and what is basically not only the UK's but the world's only dedicated industry rave. And we take pride that we bring together AAA, AA and indie developers all over the world, or big leading brands across the tech and games industry, fashion brands, and some of the leading community leaders and content creators across the whole of the UK games industry, all under one roof for an epic night of fun and video games.
That is awesome. So how did this first get started? Like, what was the inspiration for this whole event? And are you the main host that's been doing this whole event the whole time? Did you start this up?
So it originally started when I was in my first year at university. I founded it with a friend at the time who was a streamer, and it started off as a small meetup. So originally, when I was in my first year at uni at 20 years old, I just basically, to put it bluntly, got bored throughout the summer, and I just realised there wasn't that many gamer meetups in Manchester at the time. So I just thought I wanted to host a meetup with other fellow like-minded enthusiasts. So we hosted a one-off event, just without any intention of becoming what it is today. It was literally just meant to be a one-off, and it had over 100 people turn up to it. And we basically packed out this small little bar, which was huge for us. And the manager of the venue came up to us and was like, you can do more events, right? You can do more events, because they saw how much money we brought them. So we decided we thought we'd do another event the next month after. And then that got 150 people turn up to it. So we thought, we'll do another thing. Should we try and make this like a bit of a hobby in our spare time? The friend I founded it with at the time was called Stephanie Stasco, who's gone on to do other things now in her time before we rebranded into the business that we are today. And what we basically worked towards was then a third event during the smaller earlier days around 2016, 2017. And then from there, we had 150 people turn up, but then game developers from the local area started showing interest and wanting to exhibit at the events. And it was from that point I started to think, oh wait, so we're having game devs and gamers together all under one roof, mixing with each other through basically bar culture and a nightlife culture. But the kind of key moment that made me realise that this could become a thing that the industry clearly lacked was that when we were at the event, we saw a bunch of gamers arguing with Star Citizen developers, and basically what the argument was is them complaining about why the game wasn't out yet. In retrospect now, their valid points were very valid because the game is still not out. So games take time. Games take years to make, so I can understand why the developers felt the frustration. But the thing for me is, being from the games industry, I've worked on multiple games across next-gen platforms, Apple Arcade, PS5, Xbox One, and all old-gen consoles as well. Understanding how games are made, one thing I've always felt that was lacking in the industry is communication between creative and consumer. So you don't have an event that basically puts your consumers and your creatives all under one roof on the same level. You have expos where there's always a formal barrier between the two, where you might play 15 minutes of the game developer's game with headphones on and you'll never do interaction with them. And then from the consumer standpoint, they get frustrated because they want to know why things take so long, why games get delayed, and because the game developers don't clearly communicate that with them. I've always felt like there was this huge formal barrier between creative and consumer, and that's what really drove me back in the early days to test and see whether or not we could break down that barrier in Manchester. I never intended it to become a games industry rave, but the events just kept growing and growing to the point where we were having 300-400 people packing up bars, and we were having AAA giants such as Sony and Ubisoft approach us asking to exhibit at the event, which was really, really humbling. And then it basically continued to grow and grow from that point now, where we have 3 whole floors of the iconic Impossible Manchester venue in Manchester.
That is insanely cool, and it brings light to different indie developers as well, and small developers who can get involved and learn from even bigger developers, but also they can get to talk to different gamers and what they think of different games as well, also all whilst getting drunk and having a good time as well, having just an awesome rave, because that's this beautiful thing about this event. It spawned from a spark of the idea of boredom that then snowballed into a event that brings everyone together in terms of who wants to come down from the game industry, in terms of the massive giants, in terms of the small creators to the small indie developers. They can all come in this one location, have a couple pints, get a bit rowdy, play games, argue about their favorite games, and also get that communication across. And by the looks of it, like this seems like it'd be a very good networking event for smaller creators or mid creators alike to get involved more with the developers themselves. Because I've heard a lot of arguments with like smaller creators and mid creators who are struggling to get involved with different creators, because it's like not different creators, different developers, because it's like they send off 100 emails and never get any response. Well, this is an event where people can actually get involved and be put like face to face, sometimes maybe to a detriment, but obviously you will have security for that.
Yeah, that is one of the key driving forces behind what we do, is that we want to bring everyone together. There's no barriers. Everyone is on the same level. We don't treat, whether you're the biggest AAA game developer or the smallest indie developer, we put you on the same level as each other. Everyone pays the same exhibitor fee. Everyone pays the exact same due diligence as everyone. We treat everyone with the same courtesy, because to us, everyone is equal, whether you're a gamer, a content creator, or a developer. In over nearly 8 years of doing events, we've never had one incident, and I take immense pride in that because of the fact that everyone has come together. But what we've managed to truly do is take traditional nightlife culture and urban street culture and mix it into a unique brand that has never existed before in the entire games industry, which is a nightlife movement for gamers and non-gamers alike.
Yeah, which is amazing to see how it is. And also it's just in Manchester, which is kind of a hub, becoming a bit of a hub for gaming at the moment. There's a lot more creators that I've seen that are coming out of Manchester, and it's going to be interesting in the future. But I want to ask more about like yourself. You said you worked in the gaming industry, so whereabouts did you work in the gaming industry, and what did you do before you became like a full-time manager for FormatGG?
Yeah, so I always used to run, it used to be called Manchester Gamers Unite at the time before it was rebranded into FormatGG. So it was always a bit of a side hustle whilst I was at university studying game design. I then, outside of university, went on to form a game studio with some fellow students who sort of helped me co-organise the event called Try Hard Interactive at the time. Those guys came on to assist me with organising events as well as building our own game studio at the time. We worked on a game called The Ottoman Empire, which launched across all major platforms, predominantly Nintendo Switch, which was the key one for us. Side note, we were the first ever online split-screen multiplayer shooter for Nintendo Switch.
Awesome.
Even Splatoon didn't manage to accomplish that one, and we were quite proud of that. And that was called Try Hard Interactive. We were very, very passionate about that. From there, I also became the head of player engagement at Milky Tea Studios, working on Hyper Brawl Tournament across all major platforms, including Apple Arcade. So I worked with those guys for a long time, as well as slightly on some in-house projects, which I can't reveal due to NDA.
No
I
worries.
also then went to work with the team at the Lowry for a short time, because I decided to take a bit of a break from games because I fancied something different, rejuvenate. I'm a firm believer in trying different things throughout life, and I wanted to give things a go. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to give the performing arts a go, see how I go from there. And I worked on big, massive stage productions with the likes of The Lion King, Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, Bedknobs and Broomsticks. Basically, the Disney nerd in me got to live out his little fantasies, working on some big, massive productions, doing marketing for those guys. And then I was with the team at XR Games doing virtual reality games such as Zombieland Headshot Fever. As of today, they've officially revealed Zombieland Headshot Fever remastered. So I was working with those guys, and then I transitioned into doing format full time.
Awesome. So you said you worked in virtual reality as well, which seems like an interesting leap from the other games that you had, which was more kind of like 2D shooting, 2D split screen and all that other stuff. So what was that like, doing the leap from like normal type of game development to doing virtual reality type of game development?
Yeah, virtual reality game development has a lot of similarities to actual game development in terms of, it's just a different type of hardware that you're designing the game for. And, with that comes different challenges, just like anything, different user experiences. But one thing it taught me is just how big the VR industry actually is. So there seems to be kind of like an unrealization of just like how popular VR actually is. So a lot of people seem to see it as a bit of a gimmick in the community, when in fact it's a multi-billion-dollar industry of itself, and some exciting projects being built from it, not just in video games, but in tech, medical use. And what VR is managing to accomplish is really break down the barriers of what is possible in video games. There is a lot of interesting stuff coming out of VR at the moment, and I'm very excited for its future, where it's going to go, because it will become extremely mainstream to the point where I believe every single family who is interested in video games will have some form of virtual reality or augmented reality device in their home in the next 10 to 15 years.
That's awesome to hear. I find VR absolutely fascinating myself as well. in terms of like all the different things you do right now with VR, in terms of the haptic feedback motors that you can get. You can 3D print a glove that can give you haptic feedback so you can actually feel in game. That's absolutely amazing what they're doing with VR in the moment and what's coming out in the future. Obviously, you know much more about what's possibly coming out in the future, being a game developer yourself. I've worked with a couple of game developers for VR, and I've heard no end of issues with terms of like particular things in terms of what Meta has done in terms of the updates of certain quests and quest 2s, but that's a different story altogether. I've just heard a lot of griping about it recently, but VR itself, how it's becoming cheaper and much more accessible to the whole masses, is going to be an awesome experience to see in the next 5 to 10 years, I believe. Also, you said you worked in production in terms of musicals and stuff like that. Did you ever get to sing in the part?
No, I will never sing. I like listening to singing, but let's just say that you will never get me to sing. My partner to this day has tried to convince me to do karaoke throughout the entire duration of our relationship, and she has been met with disappointment that I do not have a good singing voice, I'm afraid. I just don't want to subject the world to that type of torture. There's already enough bad stuff in the world. I don't need to add that on top of it.
Yes, I completely understand. People tell me exactly the same thing whenever I do karaoke. And like, can we just not this time? You know, just leave it out. That's unfortunate, but it's understandable. So you're able to sort out all the projects and get them organized, but you weren't actually able to ever play in any of them, which is an unfortunate thing, but it's one of them.
I did ask. Could I be an Easter egg in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? I was kindly denied that opportunity, which is a shame. I would have happily just been one of the people who got turned to stone by the Ice Queen, because you know I always like that, the witch.
How dare they? How dare they not give you that opportunity in your repertoire of skills? You can be like, my main achievement in life is this stone statue character that I played. That would have been absolutely amazing. So, FormatGG itself, what time does it go on till night? Does it finish at midnight? Does it finish later on at night?
Yeah, so FormatGG is technically a 2-day event. So we have our private industry party the night before, which is entirely game developer focused and games industry focused. Then we have the main event, which is our marquee event, which we're most known for, which is the Ultimate Gaming Social. And what that starts is at 6 p.m. when doors open, and it goes on traditionally till the last person leaves, but it generally leaves around 1 to 2 a.m. in the morning. I say we are a nightlife movement for gamers and non-gamers alike, so picture a rave for nerds, as epic as that sounds. That's what you can expect, and it's across 3 whole floors as well. So we have 3 whole floors of AAA, AA, and indie studios exhibiting to the general public, and what they'll do is basically exhibit until the last person leaves. And it's not even just the exhibitors. We have brands there, we have fashion pop-up shops, we have retail partners such as like a Sneak and Rafe Energy. We're working with Arcade Club in Bury for our next event, who are going to bring some of their retro arcade cabinets down with them. And there's just a whole load of content to consume inside of our events that we're really proud of, because it's not just a case of where you go to a traditional trade show and you just have a bunch of stalls. These people are here to interact with you. That's what the whole part is. We're a community-focused event. We're a grassroots community. And what we consider ourselves as the community builder of the North. We've built the UK's biggest, not only games industry nightlife event, but we're one of the North's biggest games. And I would actually argue we're the North's biggest games industry event, just because of what we've accomplished in terms of scope and size of what we do.
Yeah, it sounds absolutely amazing. It sounds like it'll be a great laugh, and I can't wait for this event to actually happen. One of my other questions I wanted to ask is, would you ever consider bringing FormatGG to any other gaming events, like EGX London or Insomnia Gaming Festival, to basically bring that whole experience to these different gaming events themselves, to say, hey, we're here, we're going to do this awesome event for you guys, this one night only, but this is something else that we can bring to you if you want to head to it. We're normally based in Manchester.
So we have collaborated with other events in the past. So we've worked with the likes of the Digital Kids Show. We've worked with Guildford Games Festival very recently to organise indie zones there. We're not opposed at all to bringing our event to there, as long as the collaboration is right with us. It's a mutually beneficial relationship between all parties. So what we like is, we're very open to having that conversation with the likes of EGX and Insomnia, because we're all working towards the same goal, which is putting on an amazing show for the games industry and the gaming community. We are very Northern proud, like we take pride in that, being the proud man community. The saying goes, born in Manchester. and on the seventh day, God created Manchester, and I live by that. We are Manchester born and bred, but we are actually expanding out of Manchester in the very near future. I'm not going to reveal much about that at the moment, but we are expanding out of Manchester. And so we're not opposed to a collaboration, so long as it's the right collaboration that fits within our ethos and they can accommodate what our core brand values are, which is uniting creative consumer using nightlife culture and community-driven development.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see if you are expanding out. I can't wait to see you near my area, maybe Nottingham Way or Birmingham Way, and can't wait to see what that'll be like. It'll be an interesting night out, to say the least, and it'll be amazing to see what you bring to it. In terms of different studios and stuff like that, have you ever had a games jam at any FormatGG gaming events, or any kind of development going on at the actual event itself? Or is it more focused towards, as you say, more of the just community joining together and just chilling and having a good time?
So we did actually, back when we used to be called Manchester Gamers United years and years ago, we did actually host a game jam. So we had one way back then. The difficulty we have is just time. Our events take a long time to produce, and we're only a small team. So we're trying to handle whatever capabilities we can. We're not opposed to doing a game jam at all. In fact, I would love to host one at some point. It's just making sure that we have the right time and resources to thoroughly dedicate to it, because, we'd want to make sure it was done right.
Yeah, done right, make sure everyone had the right opportunities, the right equipment, and basically the right ideas. The whole development stage and the whole going through a game jam itself is quite difficult. I've seen a couple games that have come out recently through game jams. Some of them are amazing, some of them are half finished, because obviously game jams, 24 hours or 48 hours is nearly not enough time to build a game, but the games that are built are amazing from it. Now, yourself, I want to ask this, what's your favourite moment doing this? Like, what is your moment when you've looked out and been like, wow, what's this?
Okay. I have two moments that I can come back to on that. So the first time, and this was the moment where it hit me that we were not only the UK's but the world's one, was when we did our rebrand event. So back before, when we were called Manchester Gamers United, we changed the logo and did a bit of a rebrand and went from the core brand colours of purple to orange, my favourite colour. But that isn't actually the reason why I picked the brand colours. There was a whole lot of colour psychology that went into our colour choice. But we rebranded and did an event in the Printworks in Manchester. And I remember walking out of the doors and there was an enormous queue just going around the whole of the Printworks. We had over 1,000 people at that event. And it really hit me seeing all these people just queue up for something that you've built, wanting to go inside, and seeing all the stormtroopers, the cosplayers, the community interacting with each other in the line. And it was in that moment that I realized that what I'm doing is something special that's never been done across the whole of the games industry. And that's what really drove me from that point on, and that I knew I could build what has never been done in the whole existence of humanity, which is a nightlife movement for the games industry. The second one was actually our last event, which just had massive ticket sales beyond anything we've ever done, because we came out of a pandemic. I'm sure you might have heard a thing or two about the pandemic.
Yep, everyone loved it. Yep.
yeah. And we came out of that and into lockdown. The pandemic obviously took a massive hit on the whole of the games industry sector and event sector and hospitality sector in general. And we were quite scared going into that, because we thought, how have people forgotten the event? Are they going to want to come back? And that year, so 2022, was our biggest financial record hitting of year of all time. Like, we hit sale figures that we've never seen before. And not only that, the last event, what kind of hit me was just the fact that we filled this whole venue out with record-breaking ticket sales. But then downstairs later in the night, there was a real, because there was so many people, there was just people dancing all night, just wanting to get into it. And when you just see people just losing themselves in the music and they're there for the experience, because ultimately, I think this is what I love about video games and events. Both are just an experience, fundamentally, when you break it down. They're there to help you escape out of the real world into an experience and help you get a sense of feeling out of something. And just watching all these people you've brought together into a room just lose themselves in the moment and leave whatever they have at the door and just, enjoy it and embrace nightlife culture, which has been a huge hurdle for us, because we took the most introverted industry alive and mixed it with the most extroverted. So to see both those cultures blend and mix well together into something beautiful is what's really hit me. If that answers your question without me going off into it. I could talk about this stuff for hours.
Go off into a tangent. That's what I want to hear. Go off into what you like. This is something you're obviously passionate about, and this interview for me is to see that passion come through. And like you saying, you're seeing all this amazing thing, how it mixed together perfectly in terms of like how introverted people, extroverted people come together, and also how this gaming industry is bringing other people who might not even know about gaming either just to the Nightlife event, and also people who like playing games whilst they're there, just being like, oh, this is really fun. I never knew gaming was like this, because I've found this weird thing whilst going out on nights out. Some people don't even know about the gaming industry whatsoever. Even though it's so big and massive, people are kind of stuck in their own ways, and people sometimes just don't even touch it. And for you to expose all these different people to this event is amazing, because it brings more and more people to the community itself, and it makes it more and more people so they're more comfortable with being like, oh, this is my group, this is my crowd, I can actually be here and not have to worry.
Yeah, we don't just target the gaming community. Say our slogan on our website is that we are a nightlife movement for gamers and non-gamers alike. That's why we work with brands such as fashion pop-up brands, why we work with the likes of, for example, we have Nike's personal video editor shooting our video for the next event, bringing a lot of them peeps down. We work with cosplayer groups, we work with, as I say, fashion brands, retail brands, to just help expose people who aren't traditionally identifying as gamers to the event. Because at the ultimate day, it's a social event. It doesn't matter, and I always say this because it's the best terminology I can come up with, is that the video game studios and the games at the event are just a social lubricant of the event. What everyone is there for is the community, and what they're there for is the atmosphere, the vibes, and being able to communicate with people. Because human beings are tribal animals. All we want is a tribe. And what we've done is built an enormous tribe under one roof, where everyone, no matter who you are, where you come from, whatever your hobbies or interests are, everyone is there for the same reason, to have an epic social time.
That sounds absolutely amazing. You said you got different brands like Sneak Energy and did you say Rave? Is it?
Yeah, Rave Energy. Yeah.
Rave Energy. Join in with you. So how did you get them to basically join in with you? And I know it's probably like months of talking to different companies and stuff like that. But how did they discover you?
I'm very persistent. So when I see a cool brand, because I like to do different things that you don't get at events. So for example, the guys at Wraith Energy are absolutely phenomenal to work with. I absolutely love working with their team. They're always coming to the events with cool stuff, how we can hand do new things that just aren't being done at events. Like, let's say, fashion pop-up shops don't really exist. At trade shows, you have fashion stalls selling clothes, but an actual fashion pop-up shop doesn't really exist in the traditional manner of what we're doing, which is urban street culture and nightlife events. But what I do is, a lot of these brands discover me naturally, and a lot of them I reach out to and have weeks to months long conversations about how we can incorporate them into the event. Because any brand I work with, I want to make sure they fit within the core movement of the event, and make sure that they actually fit the overall aesthetic, the brand, and also that they can add value either to the game developers or the game makers or the content creators or the gamers in general, because we won't work with a brand who we don't think adds any form of value to anyone who wishes to attend the event. So a lot of it is down to, I get scouted a lot and they approach me, and that goes for game developers and brands alike, or I'll approach them and I'll basically just send numerous emails till they answer me. I'm the guy who'll just keep knocking at the door like a very, very annoying human being who just doesn't go. I'm basically a salesman who just won't leave you alone until you answer the door.
Let me in. That old
meme.
I love it. That's absolutely amazing. So you said you're open to big and small creators alike. What do you do for the small creators who join into your community? Do you just invite them on in and let them co-mingle? As you've already said, you would let them just co-mingle and do stuff like that. But I mean, like, what would you do to help smaller creators in terms of, like, in the future? Would there be spots at your events to do live streams at, where people can schedule on in, and different spots where people can possibly be like, hey, I want to come down here and record this section here and this section here? As I already know myself, you do allow recording, but would you in the future do maybe work with different streamers and different YouTubers to make different skits for the event itself?
Yeah, so we don't treat any of the big or small creators the same. So we invite a lot of creators ranging all the way from higher tier influencers all the way to micro content creators, because at the end of the day, what we care about is just bringing all of the community together. It doesn't matter if you only have 50 50 Twitch followers or you have 20,000 Twitch followers. We don't care. We put you on the same wavelength as each other. And absolutely, that is something we've always wanted to do. We've always wanted to invite streamers to perform live on stage. So we actually did this at an event once, which was have a lot of content creators live on stage. So similar to how you would have a DJ perform at a festival as a headliner, we've always wanted to do the same for content creators. It's just having a matter of the technical side of it in place, because it is a huge technical. We wouldn't have we probably would have zones where you can have like different streamers playing with each other and live streaming at the event. But what we would want to do is go really big, which is actually have a streamer on a large screen performing live on stage and getting their audiences involved whilst DJs are playing. We've got huge aspirations for that sort of stuff. But if we do it, we want to do it right. We are quite perfectionists in what we do, and we think that shows in our brand and our events, that we don't half-arse anything. Everything we do is polished and, frankly, done very shit hot.
Go big or go home, basically.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, that is us to a T. Like, we either go big or we go home. Like, I don't care. We will not ever host a subpar event. All our events have just been better and better each time. I'm always pushing it because I believe that the possibilities are endless with events. Like a video game, the possibilities are endless. So video games, and ultimately, as I said earlier before, they're both just an experience. It's always trying to enhance that experience for the people participating in it.
They're only limited by your own imagination, what you can actually create with the other people in your group, and also what you can create as a community itself as well. One of the things I'm always interested in with like big massive events like this is people who struggle with going to events like this. Do you ever get anyone who's coming in and is like, I'm not too sure about this? Is there anywhere that someone could go where there's like a quiet area or anything like that, or is it just all singing, dancing and all that as well?
No, so there are a lot of quiet zones throughout the event. So the downstairs is kind of like your main rave area, the base. That's where a lot of the AAA headliners are and a lot of the bigger game studios. We have the first floor, which is more of a chill area, a bit more quieter. We have the beer garden, which is entirely a social area where people can go to decompress, relax, have a few drinks, eat a bit of food if you want to do that. And then we announced for this event, because the event has grown so much, that we have added a third floor, which is a very much like chill area. There's going to be a lot of single player experiences from single player game developers up there. So that's more of like a chill area where you can play a few single player games. You don't want to get into the hecticness of the rave, but you've also got that quiet place where you can go socialize. And there's food and drink on every single floor as well. So if you ever found yourself that the other floors were too much for you, you still have plenty of experiences across the other two quieter floors.
See, that's absolutely amazing. The reason why I asked that is because myself being autistic, I know sometimes other people with autism and people who deal with that type of thing would go to these events and get a bit overwhelmed by all the different things happening, and they just need somewhere to go where it is a bit quieter, where it is and I'm so happy you're able to integrate that into this event and actually make it much more accessible to as many people as possible as well.
Yeah, of course. We like to cater to everyone. We understand that everyone has different ways that they approach events like this, and we just want to make sure it's not only accessible but also as enjoyable for as many different gamer types and people types, and just anyone who wishes to attend the event.
Yeah. Well, I can't think of anything more questions to ask you. Is there anything you want to ask me, or anything you want to add that I haven't brought up, or anything like that?
Yes. Which exhibit are you looking most forward to seeing at the next event?
I haven't actually checked out the exhibitors yet. I've looked at the event itself, but I haven't been able to check out the exhibitors. I've been running about like a man with no head, going to all these different events. So I've looked at FormatGG, I was like, oh, this looks really cool, and just jumped into it without looking at the exhibitors. What exhibitors do you have coming?
Oh, so we have quite a lot on our ticket pages. You can see the full lineup of them. I literally can't remember them off the top of my head. There's that many. We have the likes of Ubisoft, Merge Games, P-Cube. Oh, so many developers coming to this event. I'd have to get my list up on this just to keep track of them. And we have some fantastic brands sponsoring this event as well, from the likes of Escape Technology, Wraith Energy, Rezzle, who are coming with their VR game, Rezzle Player, which is basically VR football, which is absolutely incredible. We have the likes of Liquid Crimson, who basically make every single game trailer that you've ever seen ever. They guys make that, and other loads of fantastic other brands that are joining us for this event, as well as exhibitors. So lots of people in that regard.
Awesome. In terms of people who I'll be most looking forward to seeing at your event, actually, in terms of like different brands and stuff like that, I'm actually really happy that Sneak's making their way down there. Myself being an avid Sneak fan, I love their product to bits.
It's Rafe who are attending the event.
Rafe,
yeah.
Sorry. Is only Rafe attending the event?
Yeah, it's Rafe Energy who will be predominantly, but those guys have a fantastic setup at the event. They're long-time friends of ours. We're actually working on something very cool with them, which we'll be revealing at the event. So that's a little sneaky peek insight for this interview there for you that you can get there. And they will have a very epic setup for you to try out, and you can try all their drinks, see some of their merch. It'll be a really, really cool evening with those guys.
I've seen a bit of Rafe. I know a couple of Twitch streamers who I know personally who have got sponsorships with Rafe at the moment, and they seem like really cool guys because they seem like they help any streamer no matter what the size. And the drinks they've got coming out in the future are quite interesting. They've got apple flavor at the moment, what I really want to try, and they've got a couple other flavors I want to try. Myself personally, I haven't actually tried Rafe yet, but it'd be interesting to try it first time at the event.
Oh yes, let's just say you'll have a nice surprise waiting for you there. Nice unique flavour.
Unique flavour. Is anything I can miss at all as well before I end this? Also, I believe I'm gonna edit that bit out about me not knowing about Rafe. Because I feel really bad.
Yeah, it's okay. We'll let you edit that bit out.
I'll just get rid of that, and the rest of it will.
Yeah, that should be a blooper though. You should need to add that in as a blooper.
Yeah, that'll be a blooper, definitely.
Yeah, I'd just like to tell people where to find out about the event. So if you ever want to come participate in the UK's biggest games industry nightlife event, just head to FormatGG, which is our website. You can get tickets there. If you are a content creator, do reach out and apply for creator status with us. We're always looking to speak to more creators, whether big or small. And if you are a game developer, do reach out to us about exhibiting your game, because we're always open to exhibitors. And if you are a gamer, just come along and have a really, really epic time.
Awesome. Also, guys, you can find that all down in the description below. Go and check that out. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be an awesome event that I can't wait to head to myself.